Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana Hobby Guy. In this video today, we're going to talk about learning the basics of Lightburn. And I know there are a lot of videos out there, even from the creators of Lightburn themselves, that talk about the basics, but I don't think any of them really get in depth enough where you can get a complete understanding of how to get started using the design tools. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Specifically, we're going to stick to vectors, raster, and some of the different controls. So let's start off by looking on the left side here. This left side toolbar is going to have everything that we need to work with. And when I say everything, I mean everything is here in Lightburn. There's no need to go to third-party websites. You don't need to use Corel. You don't need to use Adobe Illustrator. Once you've learned Lightburn, everything that you need is here in this software. So let's start off by talking about vectors. Up here we've got our rectangle, our ellipse, and we've also got our polygon. And all three of these do exactly what they say. Now, to draw a perfect square, we would use our shift key and then click and draw, and you see we have a perfect square. For the circle, we would press the shift key and get a perfect circle. See the difference between these? For the polygon, we'd press the shift key and get a perfect polygon. If we didn't want a perfect polygon, we could manipulate it with the mouse however we wanted, but holding the shift key constrains it to a perfect shape. Now I'm going to press Control A, which selects everything, and delete it. Now, one thing I found kind of funny was I watched one tutorial, and I've watched many of the tutorials online, and almost all of them are just so far out there. They're sort of workarounds that people have developed because they don't completely understand the software. And one guy, I'm not going to mention who he was, he had a piece of acrylic like so, and he wanted to fit this into an LED light stand. And he wanted to make another piece here, like so. And this piece would actually fit into the light stand. But he didn't want these pieces on the inside. He wanted it to be all one shape so that he could cut it out. And he went through about 20 steps to do this, which I found really hysterical. Because all you have to do is line up this rectangle, drag over the whole thing, and come down here and weld the shapes together, and it's done. It's just that simple. So this is the reason why I'm putting this together, is because it seems like everybody's found workarounds for everything. And like I said, Lightburn has just got all the tools that you need. And let me back up a little bit. The undo up here on the top toolbar is an unlimited undo. It can bring you all the way back to the beginning of a project, no matter how long you've been in it. If you've had 200 steps in the project, you could back up all the way to step number 3 if you needed to. And that's a great feature all in itself. So now I'm back to my two rectangles that I drew. And what I did was I welded them together right here. See, this says weld all shapes together. I could have used this one, because this one is only for 2 shapes. I don't know why they have 2 of these. I just don't know why. But this is weld all shapes. I think that's the only one that you need. And then this one here is a different, you can subtract one from the other. So if I were to subtract one from the other, you see what happens? And then the order in which you select them makes a difference. So if I select this one first, and then this one second, and I come over here to subtract, that's what happens. However, if I select this one first and this one second and then come over here to subtract, it subtracts it from the bottom. So the order in which you select it matters here, and you could see where that would be very useful. However, if I just wanted to weld these together to get rid of all of these lines in the middle, I would just hit that button right there and we're good to go. That's one function. So now I did see another video, and we'll back this up again, where someone wanted to make an offset corner over here. And my goodness, it took forever. He was drawing it with a pencil. It was just incredible. It was probably a 10-minute video just on that. Well, if I take my rectangle, and he wanted it to be a perfect square, so I'll hold down my shift key. I'll draw a perfect square. I'll align these to where I want. And usually what I'll do is I'll use the grid as a guide, and I'll align it to 2 points on the grid, these 2 points here, and then I'll take this one and align this using the snap feature like so. So there we go. We'll snap it right there, and then we will just go ahead and drag over these and come over to the weld, and there we have it. And that takes all of about 10 seconds from start to finish if you know how to do it. When he took, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, and it wasn't perfect because he drew all the lines himself, and we don't know if those lines were perfectly vertical, perfectly horizontal. This way we know for sure. That's a great feature right there. That weld tool, the weld tool, subtract tool are both great features. So I'll go ahead. Let's talk about selection. So if we have two objects here. If I only want to select this one object, if I drag from the top left, it will only select the one object. If I drag from the middle or bottom, it will select everything. Again, dragging from the top selects only one. Now that would be the one that's completely encased in the drag frame. That's the one that gets selected. If I drag from the bottom or the right side, middle right, bottom right, anywhere on the right side, it selects everything. So that's good to know there. Now let's talk about image cropping. I see a lot of people on other platforms talking about image cropping and what's the best program to use. And well, you don't need another program. So if we were to come up here and import an image, I'm just going to pick anything here. So we've got this, okay? And then I wanted to crop out just this section right here. I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle over it, or actually an ellipse. And what I'm going to do is set this. Now, if we zoom way in, you'll see that it's animated. That means that it's selected. If it's not selected, it's a solid line. When it is selected, it's animated. So I'm going to put this on bottom right, the color palette, a toolpath. And you see that it turned orange, same as the toolpath. Now what I'm going to do is press Control and A to select everything. Right click on it, and I'm going to apply the mask to the image. And what this does is it does your crop for you. Now, let's say that's not in the right spot. Well, this is non-destructive. The image is still there. So all we need to do is move this to the right spot. Or if this is the wrong size, we can make it smaller, larger, do whatever we need to do here, and we're good to go. Now, another thing too, you can select it again, right click again, and come down here to flatten image mask. Now once you've done this, you've destroyed the image. So if we click on that, you'll see that now we have just that image selected, and moving it only moves the image. So once you're done adjusting it, and again we can press the undo as many times as we need. Once you're done adjusting the image inside your mask, that's when you go ahead and right click and flatten the mask. Now here's another cool feature. So let's say that we wanted to use, let me get back to the beginning here, and you'll see that I can undo as many times as I need to. Let's say I want to use this image as a background, and this isn't the greatest image to use, but you'll get the point. and I take and type over here just some text. It doesn't matter what it is. And then I go ahead and select it. Now another thing too is that whenever you're in a tool, so if I double click on this text, it'll put me into that tool. Okay, you see I'm back into the text tool. If I want to get out of that tool, all I have to do is press escape. If I press escape again, it puts me to the selector tool, and I can now move this around. So now I'm going to use this image, and the image could be anything, as the background for this text. You can get some really interesting backgrounds this way. So again, I'm going to put this back bottom right on the toolpath. There we go. And I'm going to press Control A to select everything. I'm going to right click again and apply mask to image. And look at that. We have a really interesting background for our text. And this is something that burns really cool that I've never seen anyone use on any of the other platforms. Again, we can go ahead and select the entire thing. We can still move this around so that we get the image exactly the way we want. And then we right click on it and we'll flatten the image mask. Now it becomes permanent, and no matter what we do, it's going to stay with that text. Really great feature, really powerful feature. All right, the next thing we're going to do, I like to do a lot of clocks. So I'm going to press Shift and I'm going to draw a perfect circle. Now, I'm moving the work plane by just holding down the center button on my mouse wheel. You can, if you don't have a center button on your mouse wheel, you can press the space bar and click and drag it around, or pressing the space bar activates this drag button up here. You can just press the drag button to move around. So we've got that done. So now we've got our clock face. What I do is I'm going to make this simple. I'm just going to put a number in here, and we'll put the number 1, and we'll come up here to the height, and we'll just scale that down like so. And then what I'll do is I will hit my selector, select everything, and come up here to the bullseye, and I will bullseye this. Okay, now I know that that number 1 is directly in the center. I'll click on the number 1. I'll use my arrow keys now so that it stays perfectly in the center to get it exactly where I want. And this is the beginning of my clock face. And actually I would probably make this a little bit smaller because we have a smaller circle here. To use my arrow keys, I'm going to click on my number, then I'm going to hold Control and click on the outer circle. Then I'm going to come down here to create an array. Click on that. Now the important thing is operation. If we didn't click the way we just did, clicking the number and then the circle, let's say we just clicked everything like so and came down here, that's not what we want. So order of operation is very important here. We're going to click the number, then we're going to press Control or Shift and click the outer circle. Then we're going to come down to array. Now in here I want 12 copies, which are the 12 numbers. I want them to start at 0 degrees, end at 360, and that's all we need to do. Now over here you can, if you want the numbers to go all the way around, you can rotate them with the circle. For a clock face, I kind of like it this way, but most people don't, so we'll just turn that off and say OK. Now at this point, all you need to do is double click right here, backspace, make it a 2. Click, backspace, make it a 3. And just go all the way around the clock. And that's how you would use the array tool. Another thing that I use quite a bit is the corner radius. So if I were to take a rectangle and come down here to corner radius in the bottom left, and let's say I set it to 9. 9 is about my favorite usually. Then I come up here and you'll see if I get to a corner, the controller, the mouse will turn into a bullseye. So all I have to do is click, and then in each corner, and I have my perfect corner radius. I use this one quite a bit. So the next thing we should talk about is arranging items. I'm zooming out by rolling my mouse wheel. You could also zoom out up here using the zoom feature. And another nice thing too is this dotted square. This dotted square, when you click on it, will zoom to your selection, your workpiece. So let's go ahead and create another rectangle and go to the selector tool. Now notice nothing is lit up here because we don't have anything selected. So we're going to go ahead and select these. Now I love these little icons up here. You can get to them from the main menu here too, but I prefer to use the icons. My favorite one is the center. So if I click on this, it will align them perfectly centered. You could also align them horizontally by the top, by the center, and by the bottom. And this is a very useful feature. Another thing over here, this is one of my favorites because I like to, when I'm getting ready to burn the item, I like to do it right in the middle. So if I click on this, I click over here to move to page center. It moves everything to the center of my workbed. And that's where I usually start my burn. If you use the upper left, you just choose upper left and it positions it perfectly. Or lower left, which would be like a diode laser. This is the lower left. But my preferred is page center. That's where I work on everything on my laser. Now you can also adjust the height and the width. And again, depending on the order that you select these, so if I select this one first and then this one second, I can come over here and make these both the same height. Now watch what it does. It shrinks the first one that I selected. However, if I select this one first and this one second, again, order of operations, it will make this one larger. Okay? And also you can do the same thing for the width. You see now they're both the same exact width. And then if we clicked on here, you'd see how easy this can get. And move this to the page center. So these are just some of the features. Now we're going to get rid of this one. And another thing that I use quite a bit is creating an array. Now I've got one here, and when I make templates, for instance, when I'm burning 9 pieces of slate coasters, let's say, I would select this one. I'd come over to array, left side, click on that, and I would do 3 across my bed this way, and I will do 3 across this way, and there we have 9 of the same object. Now I can also change all of the features in the array. So let's say let's do 3 again, and I'll do 2 here so you can see this. I want the X spacing to be closer together. I can do that. And I want the Y spacing to be closer together. I can do that. And you have more controls in here. So you can get used to this, learn it yourself. Really is a great feature for doing templates and things like that. So let's go ahead and get rid of these again. And basically talk about the window button. On other platforms, I see lots of questions about, I don't have this, I don't have that. Mine looks completely different than yours. You can do anything you want, arrange these palettes any way that you want in here. For instance, let's say you have a lot of these windows over here, and this is hidden or half hidden, your color palette. Well, right over here, you could just go ahead and grab it, and move it somewhere else. So we'll move it up here, for instance. That gives us a little more vertical room over here for our different windows. These, you can grab any of the title bars and pull them out. So now our cuts and layers is out here. So if you wanted to have this here and you wanted it to be narrow and always visible, you could put it right there, out of the way. And then that way, whenever you draw something, your cuts and layers are always visible. If you don't want it there anymore, just drag it back. And notice the background turns a different color. That means that it's ready to drop. When you drop it, it's now back on the tabs here. You can move these tabs over, put them in any place that you want. You can move all of your different windows around. There, you can close them if you don't want. So for instance, let's say we didn't want the console, just close it. If you needed to get it back, come up to Window and come down here to Console, and that will bring it right back. And then you can take and drop it right back over here. And you move it around wherever you want it to be. Put it over here. Then you can grab over here, move up, move down, make things larger or smaller. Over here, like in my art library, I can make my icons larger. I can make them smaller. I can move the cut library over here, art library over here. Those two, I have other videos on creating libraries. You might want to take a look at those. I'm going to go ahead and put this back where it came from, on the bottom. You could put it on the top. You could put it on the side. You can put it wherever you want. And you can do the same for this. You can move this up top if you want. You can leave it on the side. These are two separate toolbars here. You can put them all on the top to give you more workspace, whatever you want to do. So that's basically it. That covers most everything. I did forget these two up here. These two are your general settings in here. And this is where you select all of your general settings, which should all be set up from the time that you did your original setup. And then over here you have your device settings. If you needed to change the width or the height for any reason, or the job origin. Over here you want to have auto home on startup. If you have limit switches, and definitely want to check this fast white space scan. Now if you have a diode laser like I do, which is an Ortur Laser Master 2, all of the Orturs with the NEMA 17 stepper motors, which is all of them, are going to operate between 9 and 10,000 RPMs. If you have a regular LM2, it's going to be 9,000. If you have the LM2 Pro, it's going to be 10,000. I keep my white space scan on 8,000. And what that does is the area that's not being burned by the laser, and for instance, you may have something like this rectangle right here, and it may be really large. And maybe let's do an offset on this, which we didn't cover. We'll offset the shape by 4, and let's make it regular corners or bevel. Bevel's good. And we'll offset it outward. Now you'll see the dotted line means that that one is selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift and select the inside one too, and I'm going to come up here and group it. And now we have a nice frame. You'll see it's set on fill. If we preview this, let me turn off the traversal moves. You'll see what a beautiful frame this will burn. Okay. However, again, if we preview it, you see how it's burning? This is at a 0 angle. So all that white space in the middle, if we don't set our white space to 8,000, this would take 8 to 10 times as long to do, because it's going to travel at the same speed as the laser going across here. So what we're doing is bumping it way up by coming over here, setting it to 8,000. There's no reason for it to go slow. Let's let it go as fast as we possibly can. Hopefully your laser is secured. If not, sometimes that might be a problem. The laser might move. So I guess you'll want to test this first. If you don't have feet on your laser, if it's not mounted to a board, then you would lower this number down. But these are all of your settings here. This is your G-code setting if you wanted to add any. And of course you got your additional settings. This is just simulation. So these don't actually affect the controller. Here you could read your controller and see what your settings are. So that's basically about it. I don't know if we covered the toolpath down here, but if we went ahead, let's say we ungrouped this and we selected just the outside and put it on T1, which is the toolpath, then that would not burn. If we come to preview, you'll see that that would not burn. Okay, let's set this to line so that you get a better idea. You'll see only that one line will burn. The toolpath is basically just used for framing. So one thing that you could use the toolpath for, let's say you were making a coaster. So let's shrink this down a little bit, and we can get pretty much any coaster. Why do I always have trouble picking something? We'll just grab this one and bring it out. So we're going to make a coaster out of this. And let's say we have 4-inch slate. We'll come up here, make sure this is unlocked. We're going to change this here to inches, millimeters right here. We're going to set, we're going to do 4, tab, 4, enter, lock it. And now we have a perfect 4-inch square. Okay. Now we take, now this is our framing. This will not burn. Over here, see toolpath. Let me move this down to the bottom where it belongs. It will frame, but it will not output. Okay, so it will not output to the laser. Now we take our graphic, snap it to the middle like so, hold down Control, grab a corner so that it scales properly from all sides, and there we go. And if we preview it, this is what's going to burn, not the toolpath. However, when we come over here to the laser and we hit frame, this toolpath will frame. And that's the purpose of it. And it's basically a guide for arranging all of your artwork. Now there's also this rubber band frame here that a lot of people don't even know what it is. So if we get rid of this frame, okay, and hit the rubber band frame, it will actually frame the entire workpiece all the way around like so, which on occasions can be very helpful, because let's say you had a rectangle like this that was part of your project and you weren't quite sure where the frame was going to be, where the text was going to be, because maybe over here you have like a hole for something that goes in there. Well, what you would do is temporarily take this outside, come over to cuts and layers, put it on a separate layer, and turn off the output. Now, when you come over here to frame and you do the rubber band frame, now this is your piece of wood, let's say, that you've got already down on the laser work bed, and it already has the circle cut out of it. When you hit rubber band frame, it will only frame this right here. And that tells you exactly where it should be. And then once you've got it framed perfectly, you can go ahead and put this one back on the proper layer. Because, and actually maybe this one is on a cut layer. Let's say we had this on another layer that was set to cut. So, and here we set our speed to, let's say 150, our power to 95%, line mode, and number of passes 3, just to use, for argument's sake. Say we're using 3mm plywood, say OK. Now this would cut out, and this one would engrave, because if we look at this one, we have our speed. We could put our speed at 1500, our power at 85, say OK. This would be an engrave. This would cut it out of the wood. So there you go. There's your Lightburn 101, learning the basics. We're going to have 201 coming up in the future, where we'll talk about cuts and layers, and we'll talk about other things as far as the laser tab is concerned. But hopefully this will give you a good start, and you won't have to look at 15 or 20 different videos just to find out some of the basics. I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something today. Thank you for watching.